All right. Yeah, so we're officially recording. We're not live. It's not YouTube. So, but thank you very much for joining this with me. This is great. And so we're trying Zoom this time for our platform. And we've got a bunch of people here. And as I said, we will continue this meeting. I'll post a link to the next meeting in Facebook because the meeting length right now for me limited to 40 minutes. Okay, well, welcome to Dialogues, Discourse, whatever, number 5. So I welcome you. Your questions. No question. No, we can just hang on. It's fine. Okay, dipshit to everyone. Have you ever seen any? No. Anoop, when will my questions end? Did they not end yet? So, you know, so the unfolding takes some time, right? So the moment of self-realization, right, is when the biggest existential question ends. Like, who am I? So when you see through the unreality of your self-created identity. So the biggest existential question of who am I kind of ends at that self-realization. But the unfolding takes time. And the mind ruminates, and as the story of your persona collapses, there could be more rumination and more questions, and sort of as you go through this process of the dissolution, your previous life and the composition of this persona, what you did and why, becomes clear and clear, and other people also are seeing clearer and clearer. And from this perspective, there could still be some questions there, and as it dissolves, you see your prior self clearer and clearer, and you see people on various stages of spiritual journey also clearer and clearer. So the ultimate end of questions is when there's nothing more to know, right? So that's complete enlightenment, and you just live your life, right? So there's a difference between the end of the existential question and the end of all questions. So suppose that Anoop is going through something like that, and it could take time. So time and practice. I mean, usually it takes people anywhere from like 6 to 10 years, sometimes 12, and things like that, to sort of dissolve the mind, and most people don't do it completely. So it's totally fine, to still have some mind rumination and stuff. Don't try to suppress it. Every question in the mind is not actually a real question, right? So when the mind ruminates on some questions, it doesn't mean that it will get an answer. So when the some part of the identity falls off and through the emotion experience. So when you experience, when you release some of the emotions that are associated with this mind rumination, and that's usually the moment when you see that part of you that you just let go. And it's always seen in retrospect. So when you see this part of you that's just, and then you understand, and then, you get the answer of why. But it's a process that takes time. So don't seek the end of all questions. don't pay attention to the mind rumination. The nature of this process is that authentic realizations, they kind of come after something is let go of, and they stay. Uh, so, which doesn't mean that the mind won't ruminate, but it doesn't mean that you have to go there logically, right? So what was much more important is to accept all of the emotional experience and practice. So the more you practice, then you meditate. If you want to make it more intense, you can use psychedelics. But the more you practice, the deeper and deeper you will go, the more and more release you will experience, and the clearer and clearer everything will become. So, so there's a difference between the end of the existential questions and sort of the end of the existential question and the completely enlightened state. But but you know, that's the journey. That's the fun of it. So they will end when they end. Uh, yeah. So Sachin says, meditation doesn't happen for me. I feel meditating and being in life the same. Yes, yes. So after self-realization, the mind enters a kind of a permanent meditative state. Life is meditation. Yes, yes. That is what is referred to samadhi. I mean, by samadhi as a term refers to a variety of different experience, and some of them are temporary and stuff like that. Which is why Ramana coined the term sahaja samadhi, which is the most important samadhi, and in a way the only samadhi, which is when the mind is always in the meditative state, and the meditative state of samadhi is maintained effortlessly throughout the daily activity, and that's what you're referring to, and that's wonderful, you know. But uh, but sahaja samadhi, when you enter sahaja samadhi, and you kind of always in the meditative state, that's not the end. That's just the beginning, because there is more unconscious material to go through, and there's more letting go to go through if you want to arrive at the ultimate destination. And from that perspective, meditation, for as long as it still arises something in you, is still good practice. And you can say, well, I can't meditate, I always meditate. And some people say this thing, but this is being a little, you know, uh, not exactly like very honest, because yes, I mean, whatever it is in you that you discover, it always meditates. Yes. So from that perspective, you can say from the perspective of consciousness, from the perspective of life, whatever, it's always in the meditative state. But if you lie down and close your eyes for an hour and a half, let's say, and like put on some music, maybe not, doesn't matter. And then you start experiencing in that consciousness, whatever it is, hallucinations, visions, images, emotional experiences, and you know, energy waves. People say kundalini rising, some things with your body and stuff. Then it is continued practice. So the meditation becomes ineffective as a mode of practice is when you lay down for an hour and then absolutely nothing happens. Like no difficulty, no emotion, no fear, no anxiety, no restlessness, no boredom. You just lie down and you don't see anything, you don't feel any changes in your body, you don't feel any energy, you don't go any deeper, like there's nothing happening, you just lie there. Just lie there and that's it. Could everybody please mute their microphones, because there's a lot of noise coming from the microphones. I mean, unless you speak. You speak. Yes. No? Okay, so I actually, this is, okay, oh, thank you, wonderful. Yes, so when you meditate for like when you lie down for an hour and when your meditation becomes like, this is just boring, or it just becomes, like light sleep when nothing happens, you kind of, you may experience uh, kind of loss of awareness of the body uh, without, of course, loss of consciousness, or you may not experience, but you just lie down and there's no deepening or anything. Then it ceases to be a good practice. But even at this stage, if you, let's say, take LSD and meditate, it may still uncover more pain, suffering, or fear. So that's meditation, right? So when people say, well, I'm always in a meditative state, hence meditation doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't do anything for consciousness, right? But it doesn't mean that the whole of your ego is completely gone. So the beauty of this state is that even if you don't meditate, then it will keep arising, right? The difficult moments, the emotional release, it will keep arising. So strictly speaking, you can just relax and don't do anything. So that's why I say to people, if you don't meditate, don't. If you don't want to meditate, don't meditate. That's fine. But even in that case, at a certain point of time, you may feel the call to meditate because you would know that there is more, and you would want to experience more, and you want to liberate yourself deeper. So, uh, so from that perspective, meditation, as well as psychedelics, which is just forced meditation, uh, is just a tool to intensify the unfolding. But usually after something that, as Sachin said, that, I feel like I'm life that's always meditates. Usually after that, the unfolding, there's no way back, and the unfolding takes place on its own. So it's just a matter of speeding it up. Meditation, it's more intense than in life, for as long as it works. Psychedelics are even more intense, but it's the same thing. Okay, so any more questions? So there's a question in chat. Anoop says, does integration normally happen only in sleep, or there are other times also? Of course. Yeah, I mean, it does happen in sleep. It does happen in meditation. But every time, it happens all the time, right? So it's just a question of time, right? So every time somebody triggers something new, somebody arises, some emotional experience, defensiveness, fear, anger, whatever it is, it also helps if you accept the experience and just time, So it's a very common experience that you feel absolutely wonderful for some a couple of weeks, and then you feel like something is coming up, and then suddenly you break down into tears, or you have a wave of anger and hatred, and as you work through it, you kind of get back into the same meditative peace, only even deeper. So once the consciousness is discovered, once you enter the sahaja samadhi, effortless meditative state, it does tend to unfold on its own with time. So on some unconscious level, how deep and how fast is it unfolds is up to you. That's why there is such a variety. Some people just find this being life and they live like this for the rest of their life, and they don't want anything else, right? So they still experience emotions and everything, and they see life as a dream, and it's fine. And most people who say that they're enlightened are like that. That is not Buddhahood, but it's fine. And some people, they can't stop, and they want everything and they want to go through everything, and they want to solve their issues completely. So these people, they tend to not stop the process until, so they kind of feel, uh, you know, the calling to meditate, to intensify, to liberate. They go through this usually in much bigger intensity. But so it's individual with this, from this perspective. But the process itself is not individual. It's universal. How deep you go is individual. Sachin says, there's sort of heaviness I feel. I don't know if that is there, actually. Can't sleep long, feel like I'm awake and sleepy. Yes. Yeah, so uh, the deeper, true identity penetrates all states, including sleep, and that's totally fine. It was more before, and was worried if I'm getting enough sleep. Yeah, don't worry about it, right? So if you have a lot of energy and you don't want to sleep, a gift from Zoom. Running out of time? We've removed the 40-minute time limit on your group meeting. And one button only. Love it. Well, you don't leave me my choice. I love it. Great. So we don't have to worry about that. Very smart marketing. Very smart. Okay. So just cheat. Yeah. So it can sort of mess up with your sleep in a lot of ways. You may feel a lot of energy and not being able to fall asleep. That's okay. You may go to sleep and feel like you don't sleep at all because you feel like you're awake, and you may watch your dream knowing that you're asleep, and that's wonderful and that's great. You may not even have any dreams and sort of meditate through half the night, and that's great. That's all very good because uh, there is not a lot of difference between light sleep, uh, sleep with dreams, and meditation. The only sleep which is kind of real sleep in a completely enlightened state is the deep sleep, which is absolutely unknowable. So it's absolutely unconscious sleep. So you can't even say that you're there. So which is why oftentimes the enlightened state is described as sleepless state, right? Uh, so uh, so you will get deeper and deeper feeling of presence as you sleep lightly or as you dream. And ultimately, light sleep, dreaming sleep, and meditation will start to merge into one experience where you would not really be able to tell much difference at some point. And that is wonderful. That's all very good. Remember that the body rests the same. So even if you cannot fall asleep, try not to fret about it. Treat it as meditation. So okay, so you say again, because in the separate state, we really want to forget ourselves in sleep, right? So that's you're starting to remember yourself. So when that happens, don't say, "Oh, I can't fall asleep. I can't fall asleep." No, say, "Okay, I'm meditating now," and just witness everything that's going on in the mind, and you will notice that the body relaxes just the same. Like for example, men uh, have erections during sleep, right? It's a well-known medical fact, right? That men have erections during sleep. So I had numerous moments where I thought that I just couldn't fall asleep, right, for like 2 or 3 hours, and then I would notice that I'm having an erection, and then like I'm sleeping. I've been sleeping all this time. You see, the body is completely relaxed. I can't even feel the body, but because of some thoughts or dreams, I have an illusion that I am not sleeping. I mean, the sense of presence during dreaming or light sleep is was so obvious, was so pronounced, let's say, that I wouldn't be able to say the difference between not being able to fall asleep and sleeping. So when that happens, don't worry about not being able to fall asleep. Just treat it as meditation. Relax the body and just witness the mind. The body rests the same. You would notice that the body would be as refreshed as if you had slept. Okay. He says. I'm worried that I'm getting enough sleep. You're getting enough sleep. If you want to sleep, you feel like meditate or sleep, just go and sleep. Don't worry about it. Currently feel full of dreams. That's okay. That's totally fine. That's also part of how it unfolds. Okay, wonderful. So Sachin is satisfied with my answer. So any questions from the live audience?
I have a question, Artem. Sorry, I can't even talk. It's like all this stuff is in my throat. But does it just stop one day? Like, does the pain, does the fear, does it just end? Sorry.
It doesn't stop like that, right? It kind of it it kind of slowly dissolves as you eat it all, because you see what you gotta understand, right? Is that all emotional experience, that pain, suffering, as well as the positive side of it, even love and joy, are created by the mind. So I've gone through tremendous amounts of pain, tremendous, just like you going through. But here's the thing about it: the bad emotions, you know, anger, hatred, irritation, frustration, boredom, fear, you name it, aren't really bad. So they're only bad because the mind judges them to be bad. So they are uh, harmless and, as a bodily expression, actually quite neutral. But the mind wants to avoid it, right? And that is what you feel as resistance. So uh, the process of accepting them and the process of eliminating resistance is the same process. There is no difference. So first you hate everything that is coming. You hate your hatred, you hate your anger, you hate your fear. Every time the experiences arises, your resistance is very high. You really don't want to experience all of that. But the more you allow yourself to experience that, the
This is
more
Artem.
open you become to that.
He's the enlightened.
Could you please mute the microphone? Whoever is speaking.
Person.
Who is speaking? Who is speaking? Okay. Uh, so you go from hating it to, oh, I know, that's the phone. Yeah, somebody joined over the phone. Yes, so I would like, the number. Oh, I'm not gonna tell the number, but the whoever's joined over the phone, could you please mute the microphone unless you speak? Yes. So it goes through from really hating those experiences to becoming more and more accepting of them. From when you realize more and more that it's not that bad, really, and every time you allow into it, it goes away. So kind of becoming more and more accepting of yourself. So and the more accepting of yourself you become, the more accepting of those experiences you become, the less intense and painful they become, because all of the pain is the idea that you shouldn't have them. The only reason you view them as undesirable is because you view them as undesirable. You see, so you go from that to becoming more and more accepting, to becoming more and more accepting, and the more accepting you are, the smaller they are. At some point, you just start enjoying them all. It's at a deeper point, they become so uh, shallow. I mean, so sort of small that you hardly notice them, and they go away altogether. So it's not a point at which boom and there's nothing there. It's a process of accepting until slowly there's nothing there. Because to say that you are not resisting anything when you have absolutely zero resistance to anything, and to say that you do not experience negative emotion is the same thing, because you cannot characterize anything as negative, emotionally speaking, if you don't have resistance to it, right? So all emotions are just the mind's illusion that this one is a good and I want to have it, and this one is bad and I don't want to have it. And this illusion is exactly what you're dissolving. So your mind, from this experience, your mind learns that there's really no difference, but it happens through, pain, fear, and stuff like that. So it's a process of accepting yourself and accepting your mind the way it is. And does it answer your question, Lindsay?
Yeah, I think so. Because I think I was just kind of waiting
No,
for one day to.
don't wait for one day. Always focus, be free. So that's why I always, it's about your self-love and it's about your freedom. Do what you want. You don't want to go to people, speak to people, don't speak to people. You want to stay in solitude, stay in solitude. If you feel like you want to meditate all day long now, do that. If you want to try something, if you want to take a walk, learn to be free. And the freedom also comes from acceptance of your experience, right? And then when something comes, just comes, and you just sit through it and you allow yourself to experience it. And then when you through that, then there will be release, there will be more peace. So don't wait for something, don't try to attain something, don't try to find some magic button. You already pressed your button. You see, you already pressed it. Now it all goes tumbling down, and that's the process.
What do you call pressing the button? Like, what was?
Well, when you self-realized, when you found this consciousness, and when everything started when you started on this path of deeper and deeper seeing yourself, and this uncovers all of this suppressed emotionality, right? And that's why you feel like you cannot get out of it, and you can't, because your button is already pressed. So there's not going to be more buttons. I mean, they could be very profoundly releasing experiences. I'm not exactly sure where you are. We didn't speak, but I know that you have a very long spiritual history, and you are beyond spirituality right now. So I would guess that you have pressed your button, and the process that you're describing is a very similar process. It was similar for me, and it was similar for my wife. So it is just deeper and deeper acceptance of all the stuff that is coming, and remember also that all the bad stuff is the near opposite of the good stuff, right? So they go hand in hand, right? There's no hatred without love, right? So as you experience more of bad, you could experience more of good, and it's all great, As you experience more of your own ugliness, you will experience more of your own beauty. You see? So just go into that with abandon, and that's the only thing you can do. Don't search for buttons any longer. I see. Does it make sense?
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Hey,
Hi.
I got a question.
Yes, Chris.
So
Is that
you
Chris?
told. Wait, who's talking? Okay, never mind.
No.
So you talked about how
Robert.
if you let go of resistance, then the association I have currently, or we have currently, that okay, this is negative, this is positive, goes away, and in that sense, there's no, negative emotion or positive emotion. But I previously asked you whether a certain association goes away, and then there's no fear or anger or pain, or does the whole thing go away, the fear, the pain, the anger, and they no longer arise? And which is the case? Like, does the whole thing, experience of fear, go away, or does only the resistance against fear go away?
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing?
Yes.
Okay, whatever.
Because so let's say anger, right? Anger is only registers as anger in the mind if you don't want to like what makes anger unpleasant is resistance. So for as long as you have resistance, anger will be unpleasant. So you can, strictly speaking, let go of resistance, right? You can only don't resist the resistance, right? So the if you have a lot of resistance to anger, then anger will feel very unpleasant. If you have less resistance to anger, then anger will feel less unpleasant. If you almost have no resistance to anger, then anger will feel maybe like something even pleasant. You will enjoy your anger. There might be a moment when you enjoy everything, when you enjoy your fear, and you enjoy all of it. And then when you're Buddha, there is no more anger. You see, you're empty. You have let go of all resistance, and it doesn't arise. So it's the same thing. It is intimately interconnected. You see? Does it make sense?
Yeah, okay, it makes sort of sense, but so you enjoy the anger, and you kind of enjoy this the heck out of it, and then suddenly, but then I didn't get the point where suddenly you're Buddha, and then there's no more anger.
Slow,
So it's
slow process. Because so strictly speaking, all these emotions, the social emotions, when you're angry at other people and stuff like that, they come from your self-image and the self-image of other people, and this self-image dissolves through experience. So as you experience more and more and more of the anger, you will see kind of in the retrospect all the things that you were angry at people for when you have worked through your anger and it's no longer there, right? And you accepted somebody, let's say, for what they are, or you accepted yourself for what they are. So as you go through more and more and more of this, so the point when there is total emptiness, right, is the point when the ego is dissolved completely, and there's no self-image of yours in your psyche, and there is no images of other people in your psyche, and the anger does not arise because unless somebody hits you on the head, because there is no reason for it to arise, because most of the anger and other emotions are social emotions. They are created by the relationships between two entities that exist only in the mind. Your self-image and the image of another person. And as these images dissolve, you sink deeper and deeper into deeper emptiness. And one of the last things to go away is fear, because the fear is very, very fundamental. It's the fear of death itself. So I'm describing the same process from a different angle now, right? Because from the angle of, oh, how do I accept my emotion? I described it to Lindsay. From the angle of, well, why is this happening and how it's connected to ego and self-image, that would be another description, right? But the process is the same. And so there are like many layers of ego. There are many layers of emotionality. That's also why Buddhahood is complete aloneness, right? So when you end up completely alone, psychologically, right, and no one can trigger something in you with words, because like words is just psychology, right? So it's a process of destroying your inner world in a way, destroying your psyche, because psyche is not reality, right? It feels real, but it's not the ultimate reality. The ultimate reality is the world around you. Uh, so so it's going from unreal to real through all the layers of the unreal, and at every layer they appear real, and the suffering appears real. So that's why it's such a tough process, and it's tough for everybody, right? So I don't know to what extent my comment cleared this up, but if you wanted a more practical advice rather than a theoretical explanation, then you can ask me a question on practical terms.
How would you translate that into a practical question? But yeah, I think I got the theoretical part, which kind of gives away the process for the practical as well. No?
Yes, so from the practical perspective, only practice is productive, right? So if you are in non-duality, and as Osho said, every person could give you grace. So you speak to people and they arise all different, especially when they arise like non-pleasant stuff in you, that's grace. It's great. But when you don't speak to people, right? Meditation, uh, you know, solitude, psychedelics, it's all forms of practice. And you know, if your realization is deep, uh, then oftentimes it just comes. I mean, for every people, every person, if you go sufficiently deep, then there would be periods of time when it just arises without any forms of practice. Like you don't do anything, but your mind is always in meditative state, and there's huge waves of emotion, of grieving, of tears, of anger, of fear just come up and come up. And the moment you went through one and you accepted it, and there's some period of silence and peace, and another one comes. You know, you don't even need any practice. You know, you just need to live through it. So that's kind of, you know, from practical perspective, uh, anything that triggers you deep wounds is good. But you know, people tend to pace themselves and manage the intensity of the unfolding according to their own pace. I mean, I'm not even talking about that most people don't unfold everything at all. You know, most people who claim enlightenment, but still, even they would recognize what I'm speaking about, because they maybe their process is not complete, but they oftentimes go through 2 or 3 years or 5 years or just some periods of exactly what I'm describing. So they would probably be able to relate. So that's what I have to say about it.
All right. I have a question.
Yes.
How does your sort of how does your everyday functionality tend to change as a function of like how far you're into the process?
What do you mean
Do you
by
understand?
functionality?
Like your ability to function in society, like going to a job and school, whatever.
Yeah, so that's very different from the functionality of the body, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have not, I do not know of a single person who could go through this process until the very end without a period, sometimes a quite long one, of complete social isolation. Because as Lindsay knows, uh, 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 the sometimes the experiences, you become so bare and so emotional and so trigger happy that everything hurts, and it's also a deeply intimate process, and a complete enlightenment can only happen in solitude. It doesn't mean there won't be people around you physically, but it is you, about you, and only you alone. So it is the ultimate depth of intimacy that you're talking about. So a period of social isolation is unavoidable. I personally didn't have as much, but I was absolutely exhausted, and I had a lot of depressions, and I myself socially during my depression. So and my initial incident was pretty complete. So when the realization happened, I wanted to do the opposite, and I wanted to run around and tell everybody how beautiful it all is. But even with that, the majority of my pain, well, maybe not the majority, but a lot of my pain, at least half, was still in front of me. And when I was going through it, there were periods and months when I absolutely did not want to see anybody. So it's natural. I mean, some people combine it and stuff like that, but it's natural to be drawn to solitude, because we're talking about the ultimate truth of your nature and the ultimate truth of you. So how can you know the ultimate truth of you not in solitude, but from other people? You see, even my function is not to tell you what you are, is to guide you to knowing what you are, and I am successful at my job when you no longer ask me any questions, when you no longer need me, when you say thank you, I'm on my own now, thank you very much, bye, it was nice knowing you. That's when I'm successful. You see?
All right, bye-bye, nice knowing you.
Oh, I'm glad, I'm happy for you. Go live your life now. Yes. Any questions? Okay, let's see. Sachin wrote, why am I not feeling the pain, the deepest pain? Is it going to come, or has it already happened? Well, you have to ask this question, then you're probably going to feel more. Because, I mean, if you felt your deepest pain, then you would know that it was the deepest pain. I have had bad childhood with a lot of depressing instances. So has that happened, or is going to come? Don't worry about these things. You might just practice, and it's unavoidable to always try to peek beyond. And it was also my experience when I always tried to peek beyond, and the mind does that, and witness it doing that, but it's not gonna be productive. You will not know until you know. Anything in this journey is mind-bogglingly paradoxical and contradictory, because you will not know anything until you know. So all you can do is allow, accept, live through it, suffer, and go deeper with practice. That's the only
Artem,
thing you can do.
Artem, that I was actually asking that because right now I'm not feeling any pain, or maybe I don't differentiate between pain and pleasure. Rather, that feeling doesn't come to me. But I hear from people that they are going through a lot of pain in this, and hence that question was asked. But of course, I'm just wondering, I'm not able to differentiate between things. That is exactly what is happening currently.
Have you gone through a lot of pain in your life?
Uh, yeah, maybe in my childhood, but at that
No, but
time there was no purpose.
well,
I mean, I
look,
never knew that there is something called as
I don't
knowing
know.
yourself.
I can't tell you,
Okay,
but
got it, got it.
I suspect, because there's authentic emptiness, which is when emotions don't arise, and then there's suppression, because a lot of people in the separated state don't feel a lot of emotion. You can have a spiritual experience after which you don't feel a lot of emotion. The process of complete surrender is extremely painful. So uh, it is possible that you were born in more or less this state, but people like that, uh, they, you know, like people that can't relate to egoic suffering. I mean, I have a suspicion that I don't know for sure, but I have a suspicion that high functioning psychopaths are basically people that never got the the bug of the ego. I mean, low functioning is the completely opposite story, but the high functioning, they don't experience any emotion. They don't want to harm anybody. They kind of live in the moment. I mean, maybe there are some differences, I don't know, but it's very similar in a way on the surface level from their descriptions of how they experience life. So I have a suspicion that if you were this kind of a person, then you wouldn't be interested in spirituality because you would absolutely not be able to relate to it. So simply based on that suspicion, probably, if you haven't gone through a lot of pain, that I would suppose that it's still in front of you. I still don't know. So if you want to know, meditate more, or like you can take a good dose of acid and meditate on that, and you'll see
Okay,
if you still have a lot of pain, or if you're fooling yourself with regards to how close you are to kind of a completely equanimous, empty state. So yeah, I mean that's all I can say. But usually, if you have if you have a question, then uh, it's probably still a front of you, because in the process of enlightenment, as you go through the pain, you also understand the source of the pain. And when you understand the source of the pain, the question of am I still gonna experience more of pain, it doesn't really arise. You see?
Off late, I don't know how to use language, but I see to it that I'm not able to find the one whom I was taking to be me.
Yes, exactly. So you're self-realized. Yes. So you lost the story. You lost your character, right? You lost the identification with your character. There is no you anymore, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's why I feel that that every emotion, I mean, to whom is it happening? I mean, I see that it is only involvement with thought.
Okay. So you still experience all this emotion. Yes. So there's still a lot of suffering.
Hmm.
So you just disidentify with it. You see, because here's what happens. So the uh, uh, so usually what happens is that initially you realize your being, and everything happens in you. So emotions just happen. They just happen, right? There's no one to whom they're happening. The identification with your character is broken,
Correct, correct.
and things just arise in you with seemingly much less resistance. Some pleasant, some unpleasant, but you kind of accepting of them all, because your being, the still being that you are, is infinitely accepting. But that's not the end of suffering. That's the realization of I am, right?
Okay.
Enlightenment is deeper. So enlightenment is the realization of I'm not. It's the acceptance of death. So you have realized yourself as life, but you have not yet accepted death. And enlightenment is actually even deeper than both of these two. So the absolute is when life and death are seen to be one. But as I said, most people are perfectly happy to live the rest of their lives in this state. And most enlightened people are speaking about enlightenment from a state from which you speak, mostly, right? So Osho, for example, used to talk about the same thing that I'm saying in different words. So he said, when you realize I am, I is gone, but the emness is not. So by emness, he's referring to the rest of your personality, the rest of your individuality, your emotions, you see. And but emptiness, death, is deeper because it's universal. It's not individual. It's the same as difference between Atman and Brahman in Hinduism. Atman is individual, Brahman is universal. So the I'm not is a much deeper state that I am. Or like he would say things like, but the mind that is not, because you jumped out of your mind into being, right? And he would say things like, but the mind that is not still is. So I mean, he was referring to the same thing, right? So you jumped out of mind, but you have not dissolved the mind yet. There's still mind.
Okay.
So what stands between being and non-being is the collective unconscious. Like all egos in your mind, they all exist in your mind, not reality. So just like your self-image and the self-images of other people, they're still present in your mind, the collective unconscious. And sort of it all ultimately needs to be dissolved too. I mean, in full realization. So if you take, like, let's say a very large, well, not very large, but like sufficiently large dose of acid, which would invoke visual hallucination on the topic, you can have absolutely horrendous experience where, like I had, for example, like you may see, like, just an example, it doesn't mean that it will happen to you, right? So because every mind is individual, but like you may see like faces of people and stuff, and like this weird feeling that, oh my God, this is all me, I came up with all of this, and they all gonna die, and they all gonna, so that's kind of collective unconscious, right? These hallucinations that are very vivid only happen if the dose is large, because then you go through these layers of dreaming like very, very fast, and it's a very intense experience accompanied with a lot of visual thought, which is what hallucination is. And it can be extremely extensive and extremely scary. It's not needed, right? So you can dissolve that slowly, but so, like, again, meditation practice allowing for emotional experience, you can try psychedelics, whatever, you can dissolve that slowly. It does not need to involve absolutely intense visual hallucinations. Intense visual hallucinations is just what happens if you temporarily suspend, like, or go through the layers of the dream very fast. That's sort of also the nature of near-death experiences when you go through purgatory and stuff like that. So, so if this is your experience, that you have found, identified, and is resting in your being, and all emotions come, and you all accepting of all emotions, like anger, hatred, fear, whatever, it's all there, and you're all happy with all of them, then undoubtedly you have not yet realized your deepest pain. Because your deepest pain and your deepest fear is the fear of non-existence. It's the fear of death.
Okay.
You see. So how deep you want to go on the spiritual path is up to you, right? So in that regards, I'm sort of the worst teacher ever, because anyone who comes to me, unless they're completely done, like they're absolutely fully enlightened, in which case they would never come to me. I would push them deeper, you see. So if you don't want deeper, then you should just enjoy it and like let it unfold, and then you'll die, and then it's gonna be over anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay.
Artem,
Yes.
so you said non-existence is the greatest fear here. So why would we not just point our attention and all our meditations on that, and then be done with it? Why does it not work that way, to just keep on going towards that direction?
Well, that is that direction, because but first you have to go through lighter stuff, like you go through your emotions, you go through deeper and deeper acceptance, and the more love you have for yourself, the deeper you will approach it. And that's why fear tends to go away the latest, because it's all about love to yourself, and love always points to death, because the infinite love to yourself, the infinite freedom of you, can only be realized from understanding that you will die forever. So death is the birthright of love. Love stems from it. So in some Buddhist traditions, they do what you suggest, like meditate on emptiness, meditate on emptiness. When I see people say that, I think it's silly. Yeah, maybe at later stages, like whatever, but this is just, I don't know, like, how can you meditate on something? Meditation is a practice of allowing, whatever comes, it's, yes, I mean, if you, like it happened to me, right? So if you finally like make the realization that you're just gonna die and nothing matters, then it will just unfold on its own, whether you want it or not, because then you're just gonna cry your eyes out about everything, and there's gonna be a lot of fear and stuff like that. But for that to happen, you have to be emotionally ready, because you have to be ready to let go. You have to have suffered enough. You have to be, emotionally mature. And it doesn't mean still, right? So some of the things that I went through from making that realization to the enlightened state is exactly the thing that Lindsay are going through. So I'm not talking about like, boom, whoa, ah. I'm talking about just the depth of the initial realization, right? And just the initial, nothing else, right? So if you kind of what was I gonna say? I forgot. Yes. So you cannot approach the deeper stuff without having worked through shallower stuff. So it's a kind of the whole dreaming is a sort of a cake, So it's like ego is on top, beyond love. I mean, below that, the concepts of soul and stuff, below that universal love, God being, below that death, emptiness, shunyata, below that complete enlightenment. You see, so it's sort of a cake. You sort of unravel the mind's madness by going through all of that to end up in the ultimate reality. And kind of, if you are, so it depends on your level of readiness, emotional maturity, and everything. And if you are at some sort of point in your journey, abstractly, I mean, yeah, there's no journey, path, whatever. But you can speak about these things. And you meditate on emptiness all day long. It's not gonna like really help you. Although some teachers did good at like give advice. Like there's a, I mean, I read somewhere. I think I read maybe it was Osho who described. I don't know the source, but like Gautama used to ask his monks, like, how frequently do you think of death? And they would say, one would say, every week I think of death. They would say, that's not frequent enough. And another would say, every day I take it. No. And the third one would say, every minute I think of death. And you're like, no. And the fourth one would say, with every breath I take, I think of death. And he'd be like, yes, or something. I don't remember, like something along those lines, right? So thinking about death and realizing your impermanence, realizing that all of this is not going to last, can be very productive, and it's a path to freedom. Because if none of that is God, it's not going to last. What do you have to lose? What are you afraid of? You know, are you afraid of some suffering? If you're afraid to be hurt or whatever, and you're going to waste all of your life in fear, and you want to do something and you're not going to do it because you're embarrassed, there's not going to be any second chance. You see? So if you're being brutally honest with yourself about these things, then yes, it will ultimately, but it also will make you more emotionally mature, because it's very unpleasant to think about it. You know? No, I will stick, like, I will keep being in a cage, and I will keep following this routine. Just, I don't know, I just will postpone all this thinking, you know, to the future, and hope that I will not regret much when I die. You know? How honest are you with yourself? So both can work, you know, but the brutal honesty with yourself is very important. I don't know if it answered it. I know I kind of didn't answer it in a very structured way, and it's because they blabbered about it. But
It was a good answer.
okay.
It was a good answer. I got everything I wanted.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Any more questions? From Smith to everyone. What is the stage when a person can see his ego, but not others? What if he thinks everyone else is bodies? Okay, Smith, you would have to elaborate a little bit. Buddha. Okay, so are you speaking about the stage where you feel like, I feel like everyone is fucking enlightened except me? Yes. Yeah, I had those. It hurts. well, okay. So it's not indicative of any stage. It's not true. You know, because it's, for as long as you have an ego, other people in your mind will have an ego. It's the same, right? So when your ego disappears, the ego of every other person disappears. As your ego, I mean, perceptually, it doesn't mean that it disappears as a, so it doesn't mean that they start behaving in a certain way. It doesn't mean that they would not get angry or they would not cry or things like that, right? What's going on in their mind is their business, but perceptionally for you, right? So it's like, because it's all vanity, right? And if you are unaccepting in some ways of your own anger, I say, then you will look at angry people and they will make you angry. You know, if you know that you carry a lot of tears inside, then you will look at crying person and it will be like, oh, what a weakling, you know. So it's all kind of this games, and the size of other people's egos perceptionally as a response, as a judgment that they arise in you, and the size of your own ego is the same. Uh, so it's an illusion. But did I have this illusion? Also, did I have a moment when I thought, oh my God, everybody's enlightened except me? Yes. Yes. So I don't remember exactly when I had it, and it's not really indicative of where you are. You know, just like you can think, oh my God, I'm the only one enlightened. It doesn't matter. It's just, you know, the mind story and thought that arise. It doesn't matter. It's not about this. It's much more about dissolving your own vanity and hypocrisy, and it always hurts. And the mind just keeps updating its model of the world and spinning up stories and stories upon stories. And that's just an example. But yeah, it happened. Yeah, it happened to me too. Yeah, I had a moment like this. Yeah, I did. Yeah, so it's all good. When I had this, I felt like they could read my mind and they were perfect. No, it's an illusion. As if they had my role and they knew their nothingness deep down, but not I. I felt my weakness was kind of, yeah, yes. So you see, so when things happen to you, then you either attribute them to yourself or the other person, right? That's why people who are into spirituality that had a shallow emotional experience, and when they go around and they say, oh, I feel your negative energy, I can feel your anger, they feel their own, right? But they are so afraid to accept it. They're so self-protecting of their ego. It builds such a big wall around itself that it attributes it to another person, right? So your case is the opposite. You felt that you know your own mind and you are perfect, and you just playing this stupid role, and deep down you know your very deepest emptiness, and you projected it onto everybody else, and you said, oh no, it's them who know all this stuff and I don't know anything. So every time, so that's why I always said, you know, when you feel anger or when you feel hatred, for example, and try not to think about, or at least, well, you will think about it because the mind will give you that, but it doesn't matter, right? Whether you hate yourself or you hate another person, the mind will tell you the story. The mind will attribute hatred to something, right? Because for as long as there's still separation, there's still, I mean, not the sense of separation as in the beginning of non-duality, but for as long as there's still even smallest parts of the ego and they're separated from each other, then the mind needs an arrow, and an arrow can point to the one direction or the other. So just like I say that love has no direction, all love is love to yourself. You could say the same thing about, let's say, hatred. So when you experience hatred, all you can see is that really there's hatred. And then of course, and there are also thoughts about, you know, that, oh, I hate myself, or oh, I hate this person and stuff, and they're gonna be, and that's fine. But you really know, and at this moment you experience hatred. So the lack of direction of any experience is only seen much deeper. But at the very least, you know, watch the mind ruminating on whom you hating, yourself or others or whatever. But don't pay it much attention. And it's the same thing in your example, you see. So that's why all of this experience, like everybody's enlightened except me and stuff like that, they're meaningless, you know. So you felt something, then you attributed it to either yourself or the others, but both are just emotion, psychological entities in your mind that are dissolving. So it doesn't matter who you attribute it to. You know, you can attribute your enlightenment to yourself or to other people, or your non-enlightenment to yourself and to other people, and none of it matters. You see. That's all just thoughts, explanations in the mind. Sachin says, where do thoughts rise from? What is mind? Oh, geez. Okay, I'm gonna skip the first one. They just arise. Yeah, you can say from nowhere. It doesn't matter. It doesn't like I touch my hands like this. Where does the sensation arise from? From nowhere, from nothingness. It doesn't matter. I don't care. What is mind? So mind is so the mind is the exceptional ability of a human brain to imagine things that don't exist in reality and believe its existence. So the mind imagines your self-ego, your self-image, as something real. The mind imagines images of other people as something real. They play, interact in the mind. I mean, yes, of course, you also speak to somebody in reality, but on top of that, the psychological game is going on in the mind. That gives rise to all social emotions, suffering, misery, existential questions, of course, because this entity doesn't exist. So it keeps asking itself, who am I? Who am I? It doesn't exist. It will always ask, who am I? It's just a story, an illusion, a mirage. So the mind also creates God, which is another mind game on top of this myriad of entities, you know. So all of those layers of the dreaming are the imagination of the mind. So when the mind is gone, none of this is present. Only reality is present. Or as Osho said one time beautifully, the last layer of the dream is reality. Because when there is no more dreaming to cease, when there is no more illusion, the distinction between dreaming and reality becomes unnecessary. It's only important when you understand that you are still living in reality in which some parts of it are not real. So, so that's the mind. So when the mind is gone, you can say that there's still brain operating and you're kind of an individual. Or you don't have to say that, but it doesn't mean that you become a vegetable, right? Sachi says the imagination is not that in form of thoughts. Well, yes, but thoughts thought is a very kind of flexible thing, right? Dreaming is thought, it's pictorial thought. Hallucination is thought, right? And emotion, all emotional experience is thought also. I mean, with the exception that emotion manifests it's like in the body. So in my perspective, like the ego kind of hijacks the very primary neural system and that makes you feel the you know the bodily expression of the emotions. And that's kind of weird from the enlightened state, but yes. So thought is a very kind of flexible concept. So do we mean to say mind is ego? Well, yes, mind is ego, but the mind contains not just ego, but also ego of other people, you know, collective unconscious, you know, love, God being, emptiness, nothingness, no doer, none being. All of those are experiences in the mind. All of those are dream states of the mind, and complete enlightenment is strictly speaking beyond all that, which is why it's kind of a state of complete ignorance also. So I cannot say to myself that I'm aware anymore. So neither I can say that I'm not aware. It's a kind of a so thanks. You're welcome. Okay, anything else? Oof, that's a big one. Oof, Smith. Referring to your answer, if negative feelings arise from me, then the deep ugliness I felt about myself. Nice. That's the best part. Will that ugliness go when I'm enlightened, accepted? Well, that's the process of accepting all the ugliness. You know, just like all of your ugliness and all of your beauty. And then you don't see other people as ugly or beautiful. So you need to accept your ugliness. You need to accept your beauty. Beyond all of that is perfection. So again, it's not a button that you press and all is done. So yes, I mean, as you, like, how can you say about anything that it's ugly if you're completely okay with it being ugly, right? When you're completely okay with it being ugly, it stops being ugly. You know, only hatred can remember love, and only ugliness can remember beauty. So when everything is just what it is, it's just what it is, right? So you're describing it as ugliness because you don't like it, and it's the process of accepting it, you see? So I felt like it has nothing to do with my acceptance. What does it even mean? Like my acceptance yeah, it has nothing to do with your acceptance. It has everything to do with your non-acceptance. As there are ugly psyche's objects, nevertheless, and a hierarchy of beauty. Nonsense. When my consciousness was expanded, I saw my clean. Yeah, you and I, we need to talk on the phone. Like, I hope I don't insult you. That is not my intention. Lack of elegance, lack of rhythm, I felt that most conscious. We need to talk. If you want to talk and about it personally on the phone over voice, please call me. But that's not a question that I will address from text because it has just too much confusion in it. Okay. Any other questions? Hey Shay, it's good to see you. Say something beautiful. Let me make you a hold on spotlight video. Shay.
Okay, wait a second. I have to get you back on video. I lost you for a second.
There's no video. Okay.
I had you on mute because I didn't want to. I'm in a park, so I didn't want it to be loud.
You look awesome.
Thanks. It's a beautiful day. They're all pretty much beautiful now.
Very good. Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I really am. It's weird as hell.
Very nice. I'm happy for you. Good for you.
Thank you.
Good for you.
I don't really have any questions at the moment. I'm just glad to be here. It's nice to see everybody in person. Yeah. My thoughts aren't really working that great at the moment.
I just wanted to show everybody your big, beautiful, glowing face. Yes, that's all I want.
That was an accident.
That's all I want to. Okay, so it's good to see you. Good to see you. Okay, I'm switching to myself now. How do I do that? Okay, cool. Any other questions?
Hey, Artem. Does it mean anything if, like, when I start to feel emotions, all of a sudden, after a period, I can, like, feel myself, like, repressing them, turning them into, like, bodily sensations, so, like, I don't feel the emotions anymore, but I feel like a numbness.
I only understood every second word.
Okay. Is, like, my speaker not working, or?
It would help me if you spoke slowly and more articulately. Yes, okay. Your sound quality is bad, but it's not. Right. accent or lack thereof per se. It's just that with this sound quality, when you speak quickly, I lose it.
Okay, I gotcha. So I'm wondering, I feel like after the trip that emotions were coming back up. Like
after what trip?
I tripped on like Friday or something like that.
Okay. So emotions keep back, emotions
They
arise.
came back up.
What?
Yeah.
Great. That's what it would do. Yes. So you might experience some emotions during the trip, some resistance, whatever, but after the trip in the integration state, that's what it does. It kind of covers a little bit more. And then usually afterwards, you have another wave of, you know, whatever it may be. Anger, tears, suffering, joy, bliss that are hiding behind that. Yes, that's great. So it would do that. Yes. That's why I also say don't, like, when after your trip, give yourself time to integrate, because if, especially, like, usually before self-realization, like, so every experience is different, but after self-realization, trip often starts a new wave of uncovering more of your suppressed pain. So wait until it's integrated. If you want to, like, meditate using psychedelics again, then wait until it sort of settles down a little bit and you feel like you want more, but you feel like, you know, the effects of the last one are integrated.
Okay. Is it normal, like, because I feel like after the emotions came back up, I could feel myself repressing them again.
You feel yourself what?
Repressing them again, the emotions.
Well, I mean, well, first of all, I have never ever yet responded to the question on is it normal by no. So you just assume that I'm going to say yes. Unless, of course, you're going to say, after my self-realization, I grew a big brown-looking bump on my right hand, and is this normal? And I would say, no, go to a doctor. But with regards to your internal experience, emotional experience, everything is normal. Yes. So yes, you would feel that there is more suppression, because that's what the whole process is about, is to release all of that suppression, right? So yes, so you felt some opening, and you released a lot of their some emotion, and of course then you feel that there is more suppression. Of course, yeah, it's true, it's true. So yeah, that's what practice is about. Yes, so that sort of, and when you can no longer suppress anything anymore, then when it really starts to happen, and when shit gets real, right? Like what Lindsay is going through right now. So yeah, it's totally fine. Yeah.
Right on. Thanks.
Okay. So I think it's a good time to wrap up, because it's been an hour and a half, and thank you very much for your participation. And I'm gonna have a live gathering next Saturday in a park near where I live in Redwood City. So if anyone wants to come, I would welcome them. I mean, I know most of you are not from California, but I'll also post this video on YouTube, so maybe some people would want to come. And well, it was very good seeing you. Lindsay, all is good.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, guys. Bye. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Bye. Bye.